an amazing day. All right, so we're going to start with our lesson for today. And before we start with our official lesson for today, um, you should log into the a+classes.ca. Once you've logged into the a+classes.ca, then you're going to log in with your username as well as your password. All right, so once you've logged in with your username as well as your password, and then we are going to select the subject of language arts. So it's English, which is language arts. Then we're going to scroll down to grade 8. The chapter of the focus or the chapter of today that we will be focusing on is we will scroll down to sentences, fragments, and run-ons. So sentences, fragments, and run-ons. So we'll select sentences, fragments, and run-ons. All right, so once we are in the chapter of sentences, fragments, and run-ons, the lessons for today is it a complete sentence or a fragment? Is it a complete sentence or a fragment? And the last one that we will be focusing on is it a complete sentence, a fragment, or a run-on? So we are firstly going to find out what is a complete sentence, what is a fragment, and then also what is a run-on in order for us to be able to identify within a sentence if it is a sentence, a fragment, or a run-on. All right. So we're going to start, right? All right. So before we start, right? So once again, we are doing sentences, fragments, and run-ons. So we will first start with the lesson of is it a complete sentence or a fragment? It's the same as saying a sentence fragment, right? So a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought, right? And a sentence that expresses a complete thought, it has both a subject as well as a predicate, meaning that in a complete sentence, there is a subject and there is a predicate, right? It starts with a capital letter and it ends with a end point, right? And then we have a sentence fragment or a fragment, right? Which is a group of words that does not express a complete thought. And it's either missing a verb or it's missing a subject or it is missing a helping verb, but one of that is missing, right? Which means that if it doesn't have both subject as well as a verb or predicate, then it means that it is not expressing a complete thought, right? So sentence fragment it's either missing a subject or it's missing a verb or it is missing a helping verb, right? That means that it is not expressing a complete thought. All right, so now we're going to go back to our tutorial and to the lessons that we see on there, right? Okay, so before we go to our opening questions, right, it says, so a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought and it has both subject as well as a verb, right? And if we look at the example that we have over here, my friends walk along the park, right? So we need to then identify the subject and we need to identify the verb, right? So the subject will then be either my friends or friends. So then my friends will be the subject. And then the verb means walk, right? So what is my friends doing? They are walking along or they walk along the path, right? Or you can ask yourself who walked along the path, and we can then say my friends. So my friends walk along the path, right? So that shows a complete thought, it has both subject as well as a verb, right? And that is a complete sentence. All right, so then we have a sentence fragment. And a sentence fragment, it is a group of words that does not express a complete thought, right? It is usually missing either a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb, right? So a sentence fragment, it does not express a complete thought, and it's either missing a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb within that sentence, right? So which means that if it misses one of those, then it is not expressing a complete thought, right? So if we look at our very first sentence, knows the answer, right? So knows the answer. What do you think is missing? Knows the answer. Do you think that is a complete thought, right? Which is no, because knows the answer. So we must ask ourselves who knows the answer, which means that the subject is missing. So there's no subject. So who knows the answer? There's no subject, right? So it's missing the subject. No, so knows the answer, does not have a subject, which means that it is a sentence fragment and it is not expressing a complete thought, right? Because you need to ask yourself, like, who knows the answer? Because knows the answer. So who knows the answer? So the subject is missing, right? And yet even says that this is a sentence fragment and it's missing a subject, just as we mentioned. The bright red car. The bright red car, right? So what does the bright red car do, right? So we can even ask, what does it do, right? So the action, what is happening with the bright red car? Because now it is basically just telling us the subject, right? We are basically just talking about the bright red car, right? But there is no verb, right? No verb. So this is also sentence fragment and it is missing a verb, right? Okay, our next one. We skiing next week. We skiing, we skiing does not make sense, right? So as much as there's a subject, as much as there's a verb, but it is missing something else, right? So a complete sentence is we are. So which means that the helping verb, skiing next week. Oopsie, next week. Right? Which means that it was missing a helping verb because you can't just say we skiing. We are skiing next week, or we will be skiing next week, or we will ski next week, right? So those are examples of a sentence fragment where it's either missing a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing um, a helping verb, right? So you can either say we are skiing next week, or you can say we will be skiing next week, right? If it's missing a subject, you need to ask yourself who, because we need to know either who or what we're talking about. And then if it only has a subject, right? And then you need to ask yourself what this person or thing is doing, right? Because a complete sentence, right, it expresses a complete thought. And a complete thought or complete sentence has both subject as well as a verb. And once again, a sentence fragment, it's a group of words, but it does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb, right, in order to complete that thought or the sentence. All right, if we look at our question over here, if we look at this question, which is a complete sentence? We need to say which one is a complete sentence. At dawn, the sailors hosted the cargo, hosted the cargo into the ships. Hoisted or hosted the cargo into the ships. Oh, so it is hoisted. So hoisted means to raise something by means of ropes and pulleys, right? So basically, they, instead of just like putting it into the ship, they basically pulled it up with ropes and pulleys, right? Into the ship. So at dawn, the sailors hoisted the cargo into ship. Do you think this is a complete sentence or do you think it's a sentence fragment? Is this a complete sentence or a sentence fragment, right? So we can then say that this is a complete sentence. It has both subject, right? Sailors, and it has a verb. So they hoisted, right? So the sailors is the subject, hoisted is an action that you did, and this is a verb, right? So there we have it. At dawn, the sailors hoisted the cargo onto the ship is a complete sentence. The subject is sailors, and the verb is hoisted, right? It's to pull it up. All right. The next one. Nighttime leg cramps frequently occur in calf muscles. So nighttime leg cramps it frequently occur in calf muscles, right? We need to say if that is a complete thought. So we can say this is a complete sentence because nighttime leg cramps is the subject and the verb is occur, right? And the verb is occur. All right, now we're going to turn to the next one. Oopsie. Received a warning. Received a warning due to heavy snowstorm expected to hit tomorrow. So received a warning due to the heavy snowstorm expected to hit tomorrow. Do you think this is a sentence fragment or do you think it is a complete sentence? Received a warning due to the heavy snowstorm expected to hit tomorrow. All right, so this is a sentence fragment. So this is a sentence fragment and it is missing a subject, right? There's no subject. So which means that received a warning. We need to ask ourselves who received the warning, right? So who received a warning, right? There's no subject because it just says received a warning due to the heavy snowstorm expected to hit tomorrow. So the question is who received the warning, right? So this is a sentence fragment. So we only have received as the verb, but no subject, right? It is missing a subject. All right, so that is a few examples on a complete of a sentence. And we said a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought and it has both subject as well as a verb. And then we also have a sentence fragment, right, which is a group of words that does not express a complete thought. It is usually missing either a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb, right? So that is a sentence as well as a sentence fragment. So now we're going to begin our test where we will then say if it is a complete sentence or a fragment. All right, so now which is a sentence fragment, right? So we need to choose a sentence fragment. And remember, we said a sentence fragment, it does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb, right? So it's missing one of those, which then shows or indicates that it does not express a complete thought. All right, so which is a sentence fragment? News reports alerted everyone in the area to the approaching tornado. Or is it wiped the sweat from her brow after sprinting across the finish line? We need to choose the sentence fragment. Remember, sentence fragment does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb. So is it option one, news reports alerted everyone in the area to the approaching tornado? Or is it wipe the sweat from her brow after sprinting across the finish line? We need to choose the sentence fragment. All right, so we are going to choose option two, right? Wipe the sweat from her brow after sprinting across the finish line, right? Because now we need to ask ourselves who wiped the sweat from her brow after sprinting across the finish line, right? Which means that it is missing a subject, which is a complete sentence, right? Electric eels stun prey with with an intense electrical charge. Or is it Pamela fulfilling her dream of hiking to the top of Mount St. Helens? Remember, complete sentence, it has both subject as well as a verb, right? And it expresses a complete thought. So, electric eels stun prey with an intense electrical charge, or is it Pamela fulfilling her dream of hiking to the top of Mount St. Helens? All right, let's choose one, right? So we chose electric eel stands. There is a subject as well as a verb, right? We need to choose a complete sentence, right? So which one is a complete sentence that expresses a complete thought? So in August 2012, the Curiosity rover landed on Mars. Or is it my parents' business flourishing thanks to the online advertising? Remember, complete sentence expresses a complete thought. It has a subject as well as a verb. So is it in August 2012, the Curiosity rover landed on Mars? Or is it my parents' business flourishing thanks to online advertising? All right, let's choose the one. So that is correct. The second one, it is missing a helping verb, right? So the parents' business, it is flourishing because of the online advertisements, right? So that is a complete sentence as well as a fragment, right? All right, so now we're gonna go on to the next lesson. The next lesson says, is it a complete sentence or is it a run on? Right. So we first in our first lesson we identified a sentence as a complete sentence which expresses a complete thought and it has both subject as well as a verb. And we said a fragment, a sentence fragment, it does not does not express a complete thought, and it's either missing a subject, a verb, or it is missing a helping verb, right? So now we're going on to the next one, which is it a complete sentence or is it a run on, right? All right. So once again, a sentence, oopsie. So once again, a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought or expresses a complete thought, and it has both subject as well as a verb, right? Example is my friends walk along the path, right? Which means that my friends is the subject and walk or walk along the path, we can say is the verb, right? But walk is the verb. Now, a run on sentence. So a run on sentence. A run on sentence is made up of two independent clauses that are joined without an end punctuation or with just a comma, right? So it's two independent clauses that is joined without an end punctuation or with just a comma, right? I knocked on the door, opened. So I knocked on the door, it opened. And then we have another one that says, it started raining, we ran inside. Which means that if we look at this first sentence, I knocked on the door, it opened, right? Once you see a run on sentence with two independent clauses that is joined no end mark, right? So there's no end punctuation. As we can see, I knocked on the door, it opened. There is no end punctuation there, right? So if we fix that run on sentence, right, then we can say we're going to separate the two, right, by saying I knocked on the door, it opened. So we will then say capital letter. Remember, a sentence starts with a capital letter. So I knocked on the door, full stop, right? On the door, full stop. Then our next sentence will say it opened. Capital letter, full stop, right? So now what we did was we separated the two sentences and we added an end punctuation after the first sentence. So there we add in punctuation after the first sentence. We capitalize the first word of the next sentence and we also added the full stop. Because these are two independent clauses, right? It is supposed to stand on its own. However, in this example over here, I knocked on the door, it opened. There is no end punctuation at all. The same with it started raining, we ran inside. Here it says two independent clauses with just a comma, right? So it started raining, we ran inside, right? Which means that this sentence over here, we can do the same like we did with that one by separating the two sentences, right? So then we can say, it started raining, full stop, capital letter, we ran inside, full stop, right? What we did was we separated the two sentences, right? Remove the comma and we put the full stop where the comma is. And then the next sentence, which starts with we ran inside, we capitalized it, the first word, which is we, and then we added our end mark or end point again. So now we fixed that run-on sentence, right? So that is one way in which we can fix the run-on sentence by separating the two sentences, right? And by adding the basically the end points, right? Or the end marks, and then also um, capitalizing the start of the new sentences, right? That is how we fix the run sentences. Now it says you can also fix a run on sentence by rewriting it as a compound sentence. And remember, a compound sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses joined by a comma as well as a coordinated conjunction, such as and, but, or so, right? Which means that I knocked on the door, it opened, right? Then we can then write it as I knocked. Oopsie. You can say I knocked on the door, comma, and it opened, right? So that is how we can then um, write that as a complete sentence, right? So instead of then separating it by adding a full stop or end point, right? We can then just like write it as a compound sentence, which is made up of two independent clauses, which is joined by a coordinating conjunction, which is and, but, or so. All right, so that is a complete sentence, which is a group of words that forms a complete thought, and it has both subject as well as a verb. And a run on sentence, which is made up of two independent clauses that are joined without end punctuation or with just a comma. Remember, when we fix that run on sentence, we can either separate the two sentences by adding an end punctuation after the first sentence and then capitalizing the second sentence, or we can then fix a run-on sentence by rewriting it as a compound sentence, and a compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses that are joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, which is and, but, or so, right? So which means that in the middle of the sentence, you will not put an end punctuation, which is a full stop, right? There's not going to be a capitalized word within the middle of the sentence because we are only going to join it by a comma and a coordinating conjunction and then join the two independent clauses in order to make it one sentence. All right. Okay, so now it says we need to, which is a complete sentence, right? Miss Mackenzie gets a manicure once a month. Molasses cookies are my favorite. Jonathan prefers lemon bars. So, which of the two sentences is a complete sentence? Is it Miss Mackenzie gets a manicure once a month? Or is it molasses? Cookies are my favorite. Jonathan prefers lemon bars. All right, so we will then say Miss Mackenzie gets a manicure once a month is a complete sentence, right? Molasses cookies are my favorite. Jonathan prefers lemon bars. It is a run on sentence, right? Because they two independent clauses, right? Joined by a comma that we can basically fix up, right? But a complete sentence is Miss Mackenzie gets a manicure once a month, which is a complete sentence, right? Lesions flourish in some of the most extreme environments on Earth, or I'm gonna put here, or Amy puts stars on the ceiling, they glow in the dark. So lesions flourish in some of the most extreme environments on Earth. Put stars on the ceiling, they glow in the dark. So the complete sentence is lesions flourish in extreme environments on Earth, right? The next one, which is Amy put stars on the ceiling, comma, they glow in the dark, is run on sentence, right? Lesions flourish in some of the most extreme environments on Earth as a subject as well as a verb or predicate or verb. Which is a run on sentence? So we need to choose a run on sentence, right? All right, so which is a run on sentence? The coach criticized the referee for his bad call, or don't tempt much. I'm trying to avoid sugar. So we need to choose the run on sentence, right? Remember, we said a run on sentence is not a complete, doesn't express a complete thought. The coach criticized the referee for his bad call, or don't tempt me with that fudge. I'm trying to avoid sugar. So we will say, don't tempt me with that fudge. Trying to avoid sugar is a run on sentence, right? So that is a run on sentence. There is. All right. So that is a complete thought as well as a run on sentence. And we say that a complete sentence, sorry, it expresses a complete thought and it has both subject as well as a verb. And then a run on sentence is made up of two independent clauses that are joined without end punctuation or with just a comma, right? And we can either fix a run on sentence by separating it into two sentences. Then we add the end punctuation of the first sentence and capitalize the second sentence. Or we can fix the run on sentence by rewriting it as a compound sentence. And a compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses that are joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, which is and, but, or so. All right, so now we're going to test ourselves on is it a complete sentence or a run on? So, which is a run on sentence? We need to say which is a run on sentence. Cassie is an adept skier? She has trained for many years. Or is it red green color blindness affects far more men than women? So Cassie is an adept skier. She has trained for many years. Or red green color blindness affects more men than women. All right, so we're going to choose the first one, right? Because that has two sentences that has no end punctuation. So which is a complete sentence? A leap year typically occurs every 4 years, or let's spruce up this room. New drapes would be an improvement. So let's spruce up this room. New drapes would be an improvement. Or is it leap year typically occurs every 4 years? So we're going to choose the first one, and that expresses a complete sentence. It has subject as well as a verb. Which is a complete sentence? Multiplying fractions and decimals isn't hard. I can show you how. Or is it the suspect forfeited his right to a trial by jury? A complete sentence that expresses a complete thought and has both subject as well as a verb. All right, let's quickly do this. We're going to choose the first one, right, which is incorrect. And I specifically chose the incorrect one because if you do make a mistake or get an incorrect answer, then it is fine, right? What just happens is that it takes you back to our tutorial lesson, right? And then they will basically tell you how you need to do it, right? They'll explain to you either what a complete sentence or fragment or whatever the subject is, and then they will also tell you what the correct answer is, right? So yeah, the subject forfeited his right to a trial by jury complete sentence. The subject the subject is the suspect and the verb is forfeited, right? So whenever you make a mistake, right, or you get a word that is, or let's say an answer that is incorrect, then it will basically take you back to our tutorial lessons and they will basically tell you how you can do it, right, by giving you the correct answer, but in a more broken down way. All right. Okay. So now we're going to do the last lesson, which is it a complete sentence, a fragment, or a run on, right? Which means that this is now all of the lessons in, right? And we said that a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought, and it has both subject as well as a verb. And then we said a sentence fragment is a group of words that does not express a complete thought and usually missing a subject, a verb, or a helping verb, right? And you can, again, before we fix the segment fragment, right? It needs to have one of those. If it misses one of, either it misses a subject, it misses a verb, or it misses a helping verb, then it means that it does not express a complete thought, right? Then we have a run on sentence, which is made up of two independent clauses that are joined out and end punctuation, right? Or with just a comma. And we can either fix that run on sentence by separating it into two sentences. And then we add the end punctuation after the first sentence, and then we capitalize the second sentence, or we can fix the run-on sentence by rewriting it as a compound sentence. And a compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses, which then joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction. such as and, but, or so. All right, so that is a sentence, a fragment, as well as a run on sentence, right? Okay, so now it says, which is a run on sentence? We now need to choose a run on sentence. My older brother's contact lens case and eye solution, or the Australian man designs yachts, he races them in international events. We need to choose the run on sentence. Is it my older brother's contact lens case and eye solution? Or is it the Australian man designs yachts, he races them in international events? So we're then going to say the run on sentence is the Australian man designs yachts, he races them in international events, right? That is basically two independent clauses that has got no end punctuation, right? All right, let's choose the next one, which is a sentence fragment, right? The user manuals for the new video camera and the microphone or molasses cookies are my favorite. Harold prefers lemon bars. We need to choose the sentence fragment. The user manuals for the new video camera and the microphone or molasses cookies are my favorite. Harold prefers lemon bars. So it's the user manuals for the new video camera and the microphone. This is a sentence fragment. It just says the user manuals for the new video camera and the microphone, right? But it doesn't say much, right? So here it says that it is missing a verb, right? It is missing a verb. Last one is a complete sentence. We need to choose the complete sentence. Pickled herring is a rich source of vitamin B12 and vitamin D, or multiplying fractions and decimals isn't hard. I can show you how. We need to choose a complete sentence. So which one is a complete sentence? Is it pickled herring is a rich source in vitamin B12 and vitamin D, or multiplying fractions and decimals isn't hard? I can show you how. All right, so we're going to choose the first one. Pickled herring is a rich source of vitamin B12 and vitamin D. The second one is a run on sentence. And here it even says that this is a complete sentence. Subject is pickled herring, and the verb is. All right, so now we're going to do a test, right? To test ourselves on the whole lesson, which is to complete a sentence, a fragment, as well as a run on, right? All right, now this is our final test for the day, which is a fragment, right? And remember, we said a sentence fragment, it's either missing a subject, a verb, or it's missing a helping verb, right? And it doesn't express a thought. We'll varnish old oak floors. They need sanded first. So we'll varnish these old oak floors. They need to be sanded. Or is it sometimes sometimes feels nervous and uncomfortable when speaking in front of large groups? So we need to choose a sentence fragment. All right, so we're going to choose the second option, right? Which is a sentence fragment, and that is correct. It is missing one of those, which is either a subject, a verb, or a helping verb. A complete sentence, which is a complete sentence. Alec tinted his hair blue. I lasts for a week. Or is it for the A major chord, a guitar player places the first, second, and third finger at the second fret? Alec tinted his hair blue. The dye lasts for a week. Or for the A major chord, a guitar player places the first, second, and third finger at the second fret. We need to choose the complete sentence. Let us choose the second option, right? Which is correct. Which is a run-on sentence? We up the mountain with 30-pound packs on our backs. Or my shirt shrank in the hot water. I should have read the labels first. We need to choose a run on sentence. All right, so we're going to choose the second one. All right, and that was correct. All right, last one. Which one is a run on sentence? We usually research things on the internet. We have packed our encyclopedias and dictionaries away in the attic, or the windows in the kitchen vibrated during yesterday's mild earthquake. So we are going to choose the run on sentence. All right, so that is basically a complete sentence, a fragment as a run on, right? And we said a complete sentence, it expresses a complete thought. It has both subject as well as verb. A sentence fragment, it does not express a complete thought, and it's either missing a subject, a verb, or it's missing a helping verb. And then we have a run-on sentence, right? And a run-on sentence is basically two independent clauses that does not have an end punctuation, right? Or it just has a comma. And we can then fix a run-on sentence by either adding the end punctuation, right? And then the second sentence, we capitalize it, right? And then another way in which we can fix a run-on sentence is by another way in which we can fix a run-on sentence is either by making it into a rewriting it into a compound sentence where we have both independent clauses, which is then joined by a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, right? So that is our lesson on sentences, fragments, as well as run on. So thank you very much, grade eights, for joining our lesson today. And I really hope that it was informative. Till next time, have an amazing evening.